Hi guys, this is my debut audio library review and I'll be taking a look at Embertone's Solo Strings bundle. Embertone are a tiny company founded and run by Alex Davies and Jonathan Churchill. They brought out a range of products, primarily solo instruments such as the ones that can be seen here, and the four that we'll be looking at are the Friedlander violin, the Fischer viola, the Blakus cello and the Leonid bass, all nicely compiled into this solo strings bundle, although they can all be purchased separately. So the first thing that you'll see are these four main playing styles: the sustain, staccato, pizzicato and tremolo. You also have these additional options, the consordino, which is a muted style of playing, the sol ponticello, which is a style of playing more towards the bridge, and also down here on the viola and the violin we've got a sol tasto option, which is playing more towards the fingerboard. So the first thing that drew me towards these libraries was undoubtedly the beauty of the tones that Alex and Jonathan have both captured in the creation and the production of these libraries. They are undoubtedly some of the most passionate and realistic playing that I've yet heard on a library that I've used, particularly a solo string bundle. A massive thing that contributes to the realism and the passion and the style of playing that they've got in these libraries is not only the musicians that they've chosen to record it, but also the amount of control and customization you have over the sound when using the libraries. So as I've mentioned, we have the different playing styles. We also have our rounds robin setting up here, which will just ensure that the notes repeat with enough variation after a certain number of sets, so that you don't get too much repetition of the same kind of sound. Down here we also have a polyphonic and a legato mode if you want to play sort of more chord type sounds with your strings, or you just want to have sort of a more legato sound. Swinging over to here, we've got a nice little feature which is actually an ensemble mode. So although these instruments are primarily solo instruments, if we swing over to this tab, we actually have an ensemble setting. And the nice thing about this ensemble setting is the amount of different things that you can change with it in order to kind of cater it to the kind of sound that you want. So down here we have 8 players, but we don't have to have 8 players. We can actually choose to switch some of these off if we want. And kind of giving an example, if we had the full 8 players and we just stuck on the polyphonic mode, and we then switch some of these off, you can just hear that it's a slightly stripped back but more intimate sound with some of the players switched off. Another massive feature that contributes to the realism, particularly of this ensemble option, is the humanization controls up here. So here you can alter the tightness, the randomization and the intonation of the notes between the players. So used correctly, this will really help simulate an actual real live setting of an orchestra, because regardless of how tight string players are, there will always be an element of fluctuation, and the timing between the notes, there's always going to be slight millisecond differences between when people bow each note. So you can kind of help replicate that, and that helps really contribute to the sense of realism. So swinging back over to this main tab, you can see down here the vibrato display, which yet again is another fantastic feature for ensuring realistic and passionate sounding playing. So the vibrato display has 2 settings. This dial up here is the speed at which a note will vibrate, and along here is the intensity that it will vibrate at. These are also directly correlated with this third dial up here, which just to allow them to go up parallel with one another. And if you're not feeling quite confident, or you don't really want to sort of bother setting these yourself, you can also use these presets down here, which will just put certain degrees of vibrato on your pieces or on your string parts when it plays. So up here we also have a reverb setting, and this will just come on automatically when you push it up, and it also gives you a nice precise percentage of wet and dry down here. So flicking over to this configure tab, we also have a whole bunch of other options that we can use to customize these sounds to our liking. Up here we have our speed, lower, upper and our normal speed, and this basically allows you to control the transitions between the notes, and you can set a minimum and a maximum speed that the players or the library will actually perform at. Not only that, you've got this responsiveness dial which will allow you to influence how quickly the player transitions between each note. So if this is switched off, you're going to get the natural sounds and the responsiveness of the player playing that instrument at the time of recording. So you're going to hear the natural movements between each string, but if you turn it up, you'll get a slightly more synthetic sound, but it will be quicker. And for faster passages, it sometimes works a bit better to have that responsiveness knocked up a little bit. Although, you, as I say, you do sacrifice some of the realism as a result, but nothing too intense. Down here you also have your transition attenuation and a lovely feature which is the bow noise reduction, and it's recommended when you want to have players sounding like they're performing a little further away in the space, because obviously if you want to simulate string players at the other end of a hall, if the listener can hear the bow noise right up against the mic, that's going to kind of destroy that kind of simulation a little bit. So you can whack this all the way up to 127 and that will eradicate the noise completely, or you can include it, or you can kind of have it halfway. Again, the whole point of this library is that you customize it to your own taste. You've also got your intonation settings and some other settings that you can change: velocities, your CC controls, your release samples, the delay of your slur, portamento. There's just so much in here that allows you to really change what's going on, and in order to get the exact result that you want. And over here you've also got your key switches and your CC chooser, so you can assign them if you want to, but these particular, as it says here, CC values are used by the script, so it's recommended that you don't touch them. So taking a look at the sound of each instrument, I've just rigged up 4 sections of one track for each instrument to demonstrate each of the 4 main playing styles. So we've got sustain, staccato, pizzicato and tremolo. The sustain section is currently set to the legato setting, so the notes will play individually as opposed to ringing out over one another like they would on the polyphonic setting. So starting with the cello, I'm just going to play this through, and I've also rigged it up with some key switches so that it will automatically swap between the playing styles as the track progresses. And the bass. The violin. And finally, the viola. So if we just flick back to the violin for a second, we can also get a quick demo of another feature and also the Sordino, Sol Ponticello and Sol Tasto options. So if I flick on the Sordino, and all of these extras can actually be put on together minus the Tasto and Ponticello because they're playing at different places on the fingerboard or on the string. So putting the sustained legato Sordino option, you can hear the slight muted sound that this gives the performance. And with the Sol Ponticello. And the Sol Tasto. Specifically looking at the Sol Ponticello and Sol Tasto options, we have this lovely feature called the colour setting, which physically allows you to move the bow up and down the string in order to kind of simulate where exactly you want it to sit. And an example of what that sounds like whilst the passage is playing. So you can kind of hear how it gets a bit warmer when it's in the middle and slightly wispier at either end, almost harmonic-like when you get towards the bridge. A quick note is that all of these demos have no reverb on, so obviously they are going to sound a bit dry, but I really wanted to kind of show the actual out-of-the-box sound with barely any of the settings adjusted. Once you actually have a reverb setting on and you actually cater them and learn how to use them properly, the difference that you can get out of the sound is absolutely incredible. And it's worth listening to some of Embertone's demos for these libraries because they are written by people who know these libraries inside and out and can really get their true potential. But just to give a quick example of what they would sound like with reverb on, and this is just a rough reverb just set to a natural medium hall setting. I'm just going to play the 4 of these together, and obviously they're not orchestrated, they're just playing the same parts, but it'll just give you a rough insight into how appropriate use of reverb and obviously using these correctly on an official piece can help to beef up the sounds of these libraries and the kind of, as I've said, the true potential that you can gain out of them. So that's my conclusion for Embertone Solo Strings Bundle. I hope you've enjoyed this review. I've gone into as much detail as I can with what I know so far. As I said before, I've still got so much of these libraries left to discover. For the price that they are so worth getting. If you're on a budget, you can purchase them individually, as I said at the start of the video, but I do recommend getting the 4 of them if you can, because they are just 4 fantastic libraries that work brilliantly together. As of the 9th of February, when I'm doing this review, Embertone have actually released a 60% offer on this strings bundle, bringing it down to the lowest price it's ever been, which is just $199. So for that price, it's definitely worth contemplating, and for anyone who does pick it up, if you write anything, let me know, or if you want to give your comments, you can find me on Twitter under KTarrantMusic, and you can also contact us through the Sound Architect website. Hope you enjoyed the review, guys. Thanks.